welcome back to Gosh Darn Dandy Time. Our channel today will be reviewing a book series that we have 4 books out of 5. I have not yet bought the 5th book. So let's get straight into this. This is called the Everything You Need to Know Big Fat Notebook series. This is American History, Big Fat Notebook. Everything you need to ace world history, Big Fat Notebook. Everything you need to ace English and language arts, Big Fat Notebook. Everything you need to ace science, Big Fat Notebook. Now on the back of each one, there's all the books right here. And we don't have the math one because it's honestly that hasn't been a priority. Honestly, I do want to get the math one, but it just hasn't been a priority. And every time I get around to ordering something on Amazon, it ends up being a movie, a DVD, some socks, some hats. Not actually the final book in a series. So anyways, I remember that this one was the first book we bought. And that's the science one. The second one we bought was world history. The third book we bought was American history. And the 4th book we bought was English. Obviously, the 5th book we'll buy later on when the time is right will be the math one, either on Amazon or at Costco. I don't know. Eventually. So, to start off with the science, the great thing is that a lot of the pages are very colorful. They have this Comic Sans and Arial font type. They have different little fun facts in the pages and the margins. They have a lot of great colors and graphics. It's kind of like on notebook paper style. So everything is well organized and well written. There's doodles and graphs and different sketches and images. It looks like some of it has been written by hand, but obviously it's all like by computer. But it's still really great in how it's written and designed. So I remember that in the science notebook, I really liked how it covered different units. It covered 11 units of study, with the first one being scientific investigation, the 4th one being energy, the 6th unit being earth, weather, atmosphere, and climate. Unit 9 was the human body and body systems, and Unit 11 was ecology, habitats, interdependence, and resources. I mean, these books are fabulous. They're interesting. They have check your knowledge. It's kind of like a verbal quiz you do to yourself, with yourself, after you go through the short unit of a chapter. It's really awesome. These are specifically designed for, I think, grades 5 through 8 or grades 6 through 8. I mean, it really depends on a kid's individual reading level, how independent they are with initiating reading on their own. But it's really great. Yeah. It's really great how they're just designed to be just well read and well studied. They're kind of like reference books without being boring and dull and dry like encyclopedias. They're not totally new. These were published in 2016. I feel like I had one before 2016, but maybe I'm wrong. So this one is the English Big Fat Notebook. And I will read a couple of excerpts, but not to the point of where I'm plagiarizing anything. So, authorship and narration. What is an author? Author background and perspective. Culture. Author versus narrator. It provides a lot of examples. An example passages, sentences, excerpts from other works of fiction, or excerpts that look like they're from other works of fiction, but indeed they're actually written and designed just for this book. narration and point of view, suspense, humor. It talks about how to understand what you're reading in normal everyday books, in normal everyday articles, in context, online, whatever medium that you're reading and learning from. This teaches a kid or a teenager, probably I'd say 4th grade to 8th grade, how to understand what they're reading, what the context is, what the structure is. From critical thinking and problem solving to understanding sequence words like first, next, then, before, after, 1, 2, 3, last, finally, in conclusion. Or signal words such as similarly, but, however, despite, as opposed to. Learning how to use prepositions, learning how to use semicolons instead of commas, commas, commas. Learning how to separate ideas on paper, learning how to separate ideas verbally when telling a story in real life. Learning how to insert punctuation into your voice when you're speaking to people, how to separate your words as if they were being written on paper in a transcript. That's something I learned naturally as a kid, but I don't think it comes naturally to a lot of people. So I think these books are really great for that, teaching a lot of that non-instinctive, academic, educational, how to apply it not just to your academics, but how to apply it to your everyday life. It's a lot of background knowledge, too, that really helps to just reinforce what you're doing in your homework and what you're doing in your schoolwork, your assignments, your projects, your essays. It just really helps. I mean, look at that. Most school textbooks don't do this. Most school textbooks don't do this. Most school textbooks don't do this. And here's another one. Here's another great example. Where is it? I saw it. I just saw it. Most school textbooks don't do this. And what you see in traditional schools or classrooms from 4th grade to 8th grade and so on, you don't see a lot of color. You don't see a lot of context. And even if you do, maybe I'm just talking about my personal experiences in school and not so much modern day new advances and different teaching styles like flipped classrooms and flipped learning or charter schools or first brain learning, whole brain learning, all these different new types of how to run a classroom and how to make your students mesh with a specific teaching style, how the teacher is trained to address certain lessons and get students to respond verbally and auditory and spatially. But I think these books, aka the Big Fat Notebook series, are just great. They're created from the brains behind BrainQuest. Remember, if you grew up in the 90s or the early 2000s, you had those flashcards which were connected by 2 white plastic nubs. And there were like 100 of these cards, or 50 of them, and they were all double-sided with a lot of critical thinking problems and questions and math questions and spatial reasoning and logic problems. A lot of it was talk it out problems where you talked out the answer and then you actually provided the physical answer or the verbal answer. And those were made for practically preschool to 8th grade. And I had every set growing up. My sister and I had every single set. Those are great. And now BrainQuest, not only did they make some homeschool workbooks and, summertime in between supplemental academic workbooks for preschool to 8th grade, but they also make the Big Fat Notebook series. And these things are just wonderful. They're awesome. They're fabulous. I just love these. Even though I'm an adult, it doesn't mean that I'm too old for these. I like them. They're fun to read for 5 minutes here and 5 minutes there. So anyways, we'll get to more of these in another video. So please like, subscribe, comment about the Big Fat Notebook series, and adios, y'alls.